people come from all walks of life. They all have lives they lead. Any and all are welcome here to come and chat with me.
Nervous.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. I'm sorry about that. Because I started recording just as the guest may have said something. So if it's in there, well, we'll work with it. Anyway, it's quite an interesting profile on Facebook, and it intrigued me because my guest is a forager, a writer, a spinner, a weaver, working towards healing the earth, which I love, by the way, and human rights. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to get to know Jess Smith. Welcome to the show.
Hello, thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure. I love it when people respond in a positive way. The first thing that caught my attention is forager.
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
Well, foraging to me is consuming from the earth. It's having a relationship with the earth, a communication. It's eating the wild plants. It's utilizing the wild plants to make fiber, to make crafts as well. But when you're taking from the earth, you can't just take. You're also taking care of the earth, right? So that comes into foraging, this idea of relationship. And as we are fed from the earth, we feed the earth as well. So for a very long time, the earth has been food and medicine. I mean, for everybody as well. But in my particular journey, my individual journey, it's been a conscious choice of eating from the earth, the dandelions, especially the invasive plants that, everybody likes to spray and get rid of,
Right.
Consuming them for food, for medicine. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that the wild plants have been lifesavers for us. It's been a wild journey.
Well, that's fascinating, though. I think, it's so right that you say we spray, and now we're being told you hear bees feed on a lot of things. So stop spraying these weeds, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it not only can nourish us, but also the insects and the bees. We need bees. Now, tell me about the spinning. When did you get that?
Okay, so I love. There's something about spinning. So I love to spin fibers, and I love to spin unusual fibers, especially stuff that either nobody's done or nobody remembers that people have been doing. So I've been having fun with spinning Himalayan blackberry into fiber, and it makes a very coarse fiber. So you can make like bags. It's a bit like hemp, and a stinging nettle, though that's not forgotten. That's not unusual. That's still utilized in many cultures around the world.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, there's wool. And actually, I brought fiber from my dog. I am currently crocheting fur from my dog. And there's a funny name for it called Shangora, for the French word for dog, and splicing that with the word for Angora. And it is up to 8 times warmer than sheep's wool, incredibly soft, and doesn't smell like wet dog unless you get it wet, in the same way that wool will smell like a wet sheep. But it's warm, it's durable, it's delightful, and it's sustainable because these are our pets, right? We're not, yeah.
Well, it must have been quite a process for you to learn how to do that.
It's something that I've had interest in since I was a small child. I tried spinning all sorts of things, and we had a big fluffy dog growing up, and I wanted to spin her fur, and I was told, no, you can't spin it because there's no lanolin, so you can't spin the fur. And I think that was just I don't know, a way to discourage, because the dog was also quite smelly. There would have been a lot going into cleaning the fur and all of that in order to get it ready ready for processing.
Mm-hmm.
But it completely shut me down. So I didn't spin. I didn't pursue that. I still crocheted and indulged in fiber crafts, but it wasn't until I was it was in my 20s anyway, when I picked up a spindle and I started to learn how to spin. It started when I was offered some free wool. I'm like, yes, let's do this. Let's learn how to spin. Let's see what we can do. Needle felting, wet felting, spinning, crocheting, knitting, all of this. So, and from there it just spiraled.
Yeah, and weaving obviously fits right into all of that, which
makes
sense, right? Yeah. Now, you're also a writer, and tell me about that.
Oh, there's not much to tell. I've written a few articles. I wrote a novel when I was a teenager, which I published. I'm
Wow.
currently working on a novel right now. The novel that I wrote as a teenager is out of print right now. I'm currently deciding what I want to do with it, if I want to put it back out there, if I want to keep it retired. But I'm currently writing a novel right now, and that's finished, and I'm working on the sequel. We'll see how that grows and what happens with it.
Can I just ask you what the novel's about?
It's kind of a fantasy series. It's writing to me is my therapy. So when bad things happen, I translate that into a story. So it's my therapy. It's my way of looking something traumatic in the eye and processing it and working through it and healing it so that I can move on, and hopefully helping other people to do the same.
That's cool. That's really cool. I just want to get back to your crafts right now, by the way.
Yeah.
Do you sell them? And if so, where?
I don't, but I love to talk to other people about doing it themselves. This is again why I love to teach about foraging, why I love to tell people about the fiber crafts, because sustainability and coming back to our roots and doing things for ourselves and having again that communication with the earth is healing on so many different levels that I love to teach people about it. I'm a terrible salesperson, and I love to make things, but not for sale. Yeah, right. Yeah,
I crochet knit all the time, so I hear you.
right.
It's so much easier if somebody says, hey, would you make such and such? I'll pay you such and such. Sure.
Yeah. I'd rather teach somebody how to crochet or how to knit and be there for them to call if they have a problem with it. Or people send me pictures all the time. Do you know what this plant is? Do you know what this plant is? Or, my child has this issue, or this just happened. What herbs can I take? And there's always still a communication with Western medicine, with their primary care providers.
Right.
You don't want to,
don't take that.
Right. But herbal medicine and, natural ways of living can be a wonderful complement. And like I said, at least for us, it was definitely life-saving, and several others. So I'm always getting messages from people, and very, very happy to answer about identification. I don't always know. Wild things I'm pretty good at, but domestic plants, I'm not very good at. So yeah.
But it's cool though. So if somebody wanted to contact you, do they do it, just find you on Facebook?
Yep, they can find me on Facebook. They can also email me at jess.smith.healing@gmail.com.
Okay, I'll make sure that's included. Yeah, I'll make sure that's included when I put your name in, when this aired. And also you said about healing the earth and human beings. But it sounds like whatever you're saying sounds like it all goes hand in hand anyway, correct?
Yeah. It really does tie in. So when you messaged me and I was trying to think, okay, what part of me would we be talking about? And they can't really be separated. It all kind of goes hand in hand. I can talk about the fiber crafts. I can talk about the foraging. I can talk about energy healing, herbal healing. I can talk about human rights. I can talk about standing up for people who need somebody to stand up for them. But it's all part of the same path, and all coming back to healing the human, like healing humans, healing animals, and healing the earth, and just doing the very best that any of us can at any given moment, right?
Right, for sure. So now when you talk about healing humans and people, like for you, what does that entail?
Oh, let's see. We can talk about an individual basis of, say, there's an ailment. So if somebody has a wound and it's getting infected, what plants can I use, or what medicines can I use? Whether it's polysporin in the cupboard or lance leaf plantain and Douglas fir as a poultice. So there's that aspect of healing. Then we've got the emotional aspect of healing, somebody who's experienced something very traumatic. And then, we can work energetically. We can also, talk about going to counseling. Counseling is fantastic. And utilizing the resources around us, in the community and in nature. And then, coming outwards a little bit, looking at the community. Is there an issue with neighbors who, the power's out and they don't have heat, or they don't have a way to heat up any food or water? How can we help them out with that? So, and then broader, even more than that, our There are people who are discriminated against. Are there people who are facing violence? How can we help out with that? So it's microcosm, macrocosm, trying to help out any way that we can, right?
That's great. Yeah, it just made me think about something like, I come from an era where, or as a child, that like we were very poor. So we didn't see the doctor very often or whatever. So with the rich people got their medicines and stuff. My mother was quite familiar with a lot of plants and things. And a simple thing like if you had an infection, say in your bottom of your, I remember her making a poultice.
Yes.
I can't remember what went into it, bread and milk. I can't remember, bread, milk, whatever it was. And we got away from all of those things.
Yeah.
And it's too bad because like you said, it can go hand in hand. Right?
Absolutely. And it's great for emergencies. Sorry, you go on.
No, I'm just going to say a lot of us have reactions to medications.
Yeah.
And I always say, well, of course, it's not natural for our body to be taking them. Yeah. Right?
For sure. And I mean, even emergency situations. I mean, we've got the floods happening right now. Where I am in Desroches, we're completely cut off from everything.
Are you? Wow.
Yeah. All highways are all closed. So what happens if you have a wound that won't stop bleeding?
Yeah.
Ambulances can't come out, but there's yarrow growing everywhere. As long as we have access to that, you chew up the yarrow, put it on. I once had a wound it wasn't spurting out blood, but it was bleeding pretty heavily when I was a child. And my mom had taught me to go out to the yarrow patch. And so I did. I calmly walked to the yarrow patch, got the yarrow, chewed it up, put it on, stopped the bleeding. I was carving and I slipped with my chisel, and it was a pretty deep cut. Or again, and there are some people who just don't want to go to the doctor. They would rather die in their beds. And you know what? Everybody has that choice, but maybe they will want to take some of the herbs instead. So I had one person message me about, I believe it was their aunt, and she had stepped on a nail and she had a red line going all the way from the sole of her foot all the way up to her thigh. At that point, you're being rushed to emergency because you're going septic. You need IV antibiotics. She refused to go. So he couldn't convince her to go, and you can't force somebody to go, right? So he chewed up some plantain, put it on, and I believe it was the next day, the red line was completely gone. She healed. Wow. Right. So there's tons of stories about this, these sort of things, or even where medicine doesn't know, or Western medicine doesn't know. My son has celiac disease. I have celiac disease as well. And he was about a year old and still not digesting food. He was barely digesting breast milk. It was pretty intense. His teeth came crumbling. And by a year old, they need to have some kind of solid food, because by a year old, their iron stores start to deplete. So I was starting to get very worried how he's not digesting anything. What are we going to do? And I stumbled across a patch of lance leaf plantain, and it looked so gorgeous to me. It was like speaking to me, which I do believe. I'm a very big believer in, plant communication. And I thought, well, lance leaf plantain is pretty gentle in the stomach. And I think it's been used to heal the digestive system. And if he's going to digest anything, it's going to be something wild, and it's green. It's got to have iron in it. Let's go for it. So I took it home, washed it, dehydrated it with a bit of gluten-free tamari, so a little bit of a sauce. And the next day, gave it to him. He nibbled a little bit, spat it out, nibbled a bit, spat it out, nibbled a bit, spat it out, because he wasn't used to eating now. And he all of a sudden he could digest solid food. It was phenomenal. And then he had another gluten exposure at 18 months old and went right back to not being able to digest solid food again. I waited a week and a half thinking, we've done so much, it'll probably heal on its own. Still didn't work. So I gave him the lance leaf plantain. 12 hours later, he was digesting again. So with a celiac, when you have that amount, like that strong of a reaction and that amount of inflammation in the body, it's not a very good prognosis. I mean, back in the day, before we knew about celiac disease or how it works, many children just didn't make it. Right. So to be able to have the plants and the knowledge as well of what celiac disease is, but to be able to have the plants and know that they have our back is amazing. And I do credit them for saving lives, and definitely saving my son. And then, 7 years ago now, my husband fell off of a mountain. He broke his neck and his back. And he also had really bad allergies. So, and this was in the springtime when the pollen was in the air. So it was really a big struggle for him because he had to sneeze, and you would see his face just go white because he'd have to sneeze, and here he is in so much pain, right?
Yes.
So I gave him stinging nettle capsules, and the sneezing went away. It was marvelous, because it's a natural antihistamine. As well, we did free compresses for his back and all sorts of things as well. Being in so much pain, you don't want to take so much ibuprofen because you can get gut rot. You get a hole in your stomach. It's no good. Little bits here and there are fine, but over a long period of time, you can do quite a bit of damage. And he was starting to get pain. So we decided, okay, ginger, let's try ginger. It's a natural pain reliever. Let's try it. So I'd give him 4 capsules, and we checked it out, and it seemed to be that 4 capsules of ground ginger equaled about the same as 1,200 milligrams of ibuprofen, but without the gut rot. Now, the only side effects that I'm aware of is that it can be a mild blood thinner. So you don't want to take it if you're already on blood thinners or have hemophilia. But other than that, it was great. He got to not take any more ibuprofen, or even at the beginning could cut, take ibuprofen here and ginger over here, separate a little bit, right? So
that's kind of interesting. Yeah. I was just thinking, because I have lots of allergies, but mostly it's food. I'm allergic to ginger, nutmeg, those type of things. It's all really bizarre. I don't know anybody else who is, but to be able to take something in capsule form, of course, if for pain or whatever, it would be totally different. I would imagine my body wouldn't react the same way as if I'm eating ginger or fresh ginger or whatever that mixed in. You know how they put it in like carrot cake and stuff, which
yeah.
So I try, but I can't. I say no, I can't. What did you put in it? I can't. But it's kind of interesting because somebody told me, then you'll probably know this better, that local honey from bees is probably a good way to get rid of some allergies. Is that true?
Yeah. It didn't help with my husband, but he loves honey, and we buy local honey because we have friends who are beekeepers, so we love to support them. And it didn't help him, but I hear that from a lot of people that eating local honey kind of sensitizes you to the pollens that are in your area.
Right.
And I've heard of success for other people, and it's really awesome. Or even eating the pollen itself, because you can buy the bee pollen as well. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Flying around.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, I've just been silly.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think about what else did you have on your profile? Because I'm reading everything from your profile, and which is so fabulous, right? I connected with when you talk about the plants and how I forget what you said about how you feel about them, but like I have an aloe vera. I don't like having house plants because I did, but at one time I'm too lazy to take care of them. But I have an aloe vera that I talk to it every morning. I have to touch it for whatever reason, And so I appreciate what you were saying, that they do give us whatever kind of plant it is. Then you mentioned something about wild plantain. Is that what you said it was?
Yeah, Plantigo lanceolata is the Latin name, and sorry, my
That's all right. Don't worry about it.
yeah.
I didn't know we had such a thing here.
Yeah, most people. So I wrote an article years ago, shortly after everything with my son, and it spread, which is great. And then it got copied a bunch of times, which is totally fine, because it just means that it reaches more people, and it doesn't need my name attached to it. But most people were posting pictures of broadleaf plantain instead of the lance leaf plantain. Broadleaf is still really good. It's a nice healer for the digestive system, but it doesn't do quite the same thing for a celiac in healing the digestive system. It's still really amazing, but it isn't as potent as a lance leaf plantain, specifically for the intestines. But yeah, no, it grows everywhere around here, and it's one of my favorite plants. It also draws venom from the body. So if you get a bee sting, so one of the first things that I teach kids, I used to run kind of like a forest play group. We'd meet up with parents and their kids, and we still do here and there, but it's very unofficial. One of the first things I teach the kids is to use a plantain. You get a bee sting or a spider bite, chew it up, put it on there directly, like immediately. Or you see a friend, chew it up, put it on there for them. And what's great is that the kids are the ones who are going to carry this information forward. They're thirsty for this knowledge. They want to know how to take care of themselves. They want to know how to build shelters, how to find food, how to find medicine, how to help their parents, because I don't know, they want to be independent, and they feel, I really feel like they feel the earth talking to them, and they want to get to work. They have a mission and they want to do it.
Right.
So,
I love that. That is so cool. Yeah, because unfortunately, a lot of kids are brought up in apartments, and you know, and if they don't get that education at the school system level, or I know that they're starting to do some gardening and teaching kids things like that, which I think is wonderful, right? So that's all really cool. Well, I'm thinking we might be just out of time, but maybe not. Maybe not. Is there anything I haven't asked you about that you want to share?
I can't think of anything, honestly. I could talk forever about the plants. I could talk forever about spinning and weaving. I guess more than anything is just remembering to forage sustainably. Ask before harvesting anything from anybody's property, wild areas, especially like indigenous owned areas as well. Reserves, all of that. Make sure you ask for permission. Avoid any areas that are sprayed or near railways or highways. And make sure that you know what you're picking, because there are a lot of common lookalikes that we don't have a lot of deadly plants around here, but we do have a few pretty intense ones. Foxglove, giant hogweed being a few of them, water hemlock, poison hemlock, and as well, not picking the plants that are endangered. So there's a lot of kind of mysticism around the idea of foraging and eating and living from the earth, right? And sometimes with that, when you're just coming into that, some people can come with a bit of a take mentality. So for example, ghost pipe is amazing and can be utilized into a bunch of different medicines. I don't teach about it because it's endangered and we don't want to mess with it, right? So if first off, go for the invasives, go for the dandelion, go for the sow thistle and the milk, or the Canada thistle and all of the invasives, because they will do everything that you need, and then you aren't harming the environment, and you're actually helping the environment by making space for the native plants to grow. And there's no danger of the invasives like becoming endangered. There's just no chance.
Right. Yeah. Good point. Well, there is something like some kind of a weed that almost looks like a jade plant. Very low.
Purslane.
Pardon?
Purslane.
Oh, is that what it is? Oh, okay.
I think so. Sorry, continue.
No, I was just going to say it's invasive. So now somebody told me you could eat it, and I tried, and it just not to my taste, you know. But maybe I wasn't sure how to prepare it or whatever like that, because I know there are a lot of things you can't eat, right? You mentioned what was it you mentioned that you could eat? Well, dandelions, we know that. A lot of the greens.
Yeah, tons of greens, but there's also chestnuts, there's acorns. Most people completely skip over acorns because they're quite bitter. There's a bit of a process and a bit of work that needs to go into them. But yeah, a lot of people, because many of us don't have greens in our diet to begin with, but greens should take up quite a bit of our diet. So eating something like a dandelion leaf or even dandelion roots might be a little iffy for some. So I say go for green smoothies, throw them in a blender with a banana or any other fruit and something sweet. And if it's too bitter, add just a tiniest bit of salt. It kind of confuses your palate. Sweet, salty, bitter, and it's much more palatable. Or make chips. Bitter and salt go great together. So put it in the oven or the dehydrator, and you have green chips that you can eat. They're fabulous.
That's cool. Well, I know I think we're just about out of time.
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's awesome. Stay on camera while I just talk to the audience for a second. So yes, if you want to reach Jess Smith, I'm going to include her information. If you want to ask her a question, sounds like she's open to answering your questions. I think that's pretty good. And you know, being a knitter and a crocheter, we often come across patterns that just don't make any sense sometimes. So maybe she could help with that, right? Whatever works. Thank you for watching this show. And by the way, this is what month? November 15th, and it's really bad out there today. So hope everybody is safe. Take care, everybody, and peace out.
A sense of community till it wax a place to be. A sense of community where you're free. Rolling through the mountains sands, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me. It's multicultural, you're sure to see it all. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see. Come party in the park, go dancing after dark. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see.